All right, so I'm most excited about this part. We get to talk about one of the features that really defined Constellix early on. This is something that, really got us hyped to get Constellix going and got us a lot of our initial users because this is something that a lot of people requested in DNS Made Easy. And that's kind of the foundation of Constellix, is taking things that our users have wanted in DNS Made Easy, but we weren't able to do it with the configurations and everything that we already had in DNS Made Easy. Like, it just was not possible to take our legacy infrastructure and or legacy services and turn that into something new. So instead, that's why we created Constellix. It's a new service starting from scratch, and we're able to do cool things like record pools. But the thing is, record pools are really misunderstood. But in reality, they're really cool.
They are really cool.
So we're going to talk a little bit about them. And this was actually the most requested thing to talk about from the survey that we sent out. So record pools are just groups of records or groups of IP addresses or host names, and then this group can be applied to a record. And then what happens is when that record is queried, we just cycle through the endpoints in that record pool at random. So it's the same thing as if in DNS Made Easy, to create round robin, you would make, multiple records with the same name but pointing to different IP addresses or host names. And so record pools just make this simpler. They're easier to manage. They're easier to edit in the long run, and you can actually have up to 256 endpoints in a record pool. Like, that's pretty cool. Like, nobody else is able to do that. That I know of.
Yeah, we're the only ones.
So that's just the beginning, though, because you can do some really cool failover stuff with record pools. Like, so say one of the endpoints in your pool is down, and like what you do is when you're configuring a pool, you just add monitoring checks to each pool. And so all you have to do is jump to our monitoring app, and right now you can actually do that inside the application. Just jump from app to app without having to log in again. Pretty cool new feature.
Yes, it is.
If one of the endpoints in the pool is considered as down, we'll only cycle through and return the available endpoints. And the other thing we can do is you can actually do an entire pool failover from one pool to another pool. If the majority of the endpoints are down in a pool, we'll fail over to the backup pool that you've specified ahead of time. So now what's the difference between this? Yeah, it's a pool. It's an inception pool. So the problem is with round robin is you can't do these things. So with round robin, you have individual records, and you're going to have to create failover rules that fail over one record to another record. So, that's fine if you're going like 1 to 2 to 3 and then back to 1. But say you have 1 pointing to 2 and 2 to 3 and then 3 pointing back to 2. You now have 2 records pointing at your 2.2.2.2. So what happens if 3 goes down? Then you actually have 2 records pointing to 2.2.2.2. You have, so 3.3.3 is now saying I'm actually 2.2.2.2. So that means 2 is going to be returned twice as often as 1.1.1.1. Now this might be fine for you, but for users that want like a truly even load balancing, you're going to want to stick with record pools. Now if you want something like this, and it doesn't, regardless of whether things are up or down, we actually have a feature called weighted round robin, and all you do is you add weights to the endpoints in your pool. And it's actually really cool to kind of mess around with. So like if you're doing like a rollout or something, you can slowly increase the weight of the new endpoint. All right, so now we're going to get into one of our newest features, which we're really excited about. We're calling it ITO, Internet Traffic Optimization. And what this does is it's a kind of record pool. And instead of pointing to endpoints at random, we'll actually use associated monitoring checks for each one of these endpoints and determine which one is the fastest, and then only return the fastest endpoint. And if you have a bunch of endpoints, you can actually specify more than one endpoint to be returned. But yeah, so it's really great for reducing load times, and it just gives your users a better experience overall. So you can actually combine ITO pools with the Global Traffic Director, which is a regional load balancing service. And so GTD divides the world up into 5 different regions: US West, US East, Europe, Asia Pac, and Oceania. And so what that means is for each of these regions, you'll have records that are unique just to that region. So let's say you have different cloud providers in US East than you do in US West, and you want to point to those, like, individually on their own. So we'll have a pool for US East that has these 3 providers, and we only want to return the fastest one when a user queries that record. And then in US West, the same thing. So this way you get the most geographically unique and accurate response every time, and also the fastest. All right, so now why would you want to use ITO versus our Global Traffic Director service? Like, we talked about how you can combine them and all that, but in some cases, ITO might not actually be the best solution for you. We had this great use case the other day. A user had, let's see, they had one location in each region, like one data center in each region, and they wanted to use ITO. Well, the thing is, like, ITO, when you set it up, you'll notice that you can actually specify a region, or you can do world. But world just really doesn't make sense in this case, because you're actually taking like a global average of the response times for your servers, and it's not accurate to the actual location of your end users. So instead, we really recommend using ITO only when you have more than one endpoint in each region. So if you only have 1 or maybe even 2, we recommend using the Global Traffic Director, which, as we discussed before, it segments your records by region. So then that means if you have a user querying from US East, they're going to be responded to by a server in US East every time. All right, so this is another really cool use case we got the other day. And this is the kind of stuff that really gets us excited. Like, we'll have people who maybe they, have a gist of like how our product works and the different kind of things that we offer, but they have this situation or use case and they don't know what feature set can help them or if we can even help them. So in this case, we had a user that was in Asia Pac, and they wanted to create a region-specific record just for their Asia users. And they wanted their mobile traffic to be answered by a specific pool that pointed them to different cloud providers. And they weren't sure if we were able to do this. Well, the thing is, with mobile carriers, they all register a physical address to the IP addresses that they assign to their mobile devices. So that means that these IPs are geographically mapped to their location. So, or not these devices, these networks are mapped to their location. So as long as you can find the ASNs for those mobile providers, you just have to enter those into an IP filter and then apply that to your ITO pool. And that way, your mobile traffic in Asia Pac will be answered by the fastest cloud provider at that time. Now, a little background on IP filters. They're just rules that you can apply to records that say, all right, anybody that matches this rule set will be answered by this record. Now, when you have an IP filter, you also have to have a world default, which is what we have here on the right side. And that just means that anybody that doesn't match our IP filter rule will be answered by our world default.